Picture this, Russia, in 1917. This was a huge year, a year when a revolution ended centuries of rule by the Tsars. But this revolution wasn't just about a single year, it was about power, about people not having enough, and about wanting change. And get this, the story still matters today. Under Tsar Nicholas II, Russia was a land of extremes. The Tsar and his rich friends lived like kings, while most Russians were dirt poor. If anyone spoke out against the Tsar, his secret police, the Okhrana, would silence them. They controlled everything, books, newspapers, even what people could say to each other. Now, fast forward to today, and things seem eerily familiar in Putin's Russia. Just like back then, the government controls what people see and hear, and anyone who disagrees is in danger. Journalists and activists are threatened, thrown in jail, or worse, just for speaking their minds. It's like history is repeating itself. Life in Tsarist Russia was tough, and it was this hardship that led to the revolution. Most Russians were peasants, working hard on land owned by the rich, barely surviving while the rich lived it up. Factories were popping up, but they brought their own problems, with workers facing terrible conditions and low pay. The Tsar wasn't helping. Nicholas II, though maybe not a bad guy at heart, was totally out of touch with his people. He held on to power, ignoring the people's cries for change. Then came the Russo-Japanese War in 1904. Russia's defeat was a disaster, showing everyone how weak the Tsar really was. But the final straw was World War I. The war made everything worse. Millions of Russians were sent to fight, with terrible equipment and even worse leaders. They lost battle after battle, and the death toll was horrifying. The war destroyed the economy, leading to food shortages and suffering everywhere. The Russian people had had enough. By 1917, Russia was a powder keg ready to explode. In February, strikes and protests erupted in the capital city Petrograd. It all started with people demanding bread, but it quickly became about something much bigger. Women, workers, soldiers and students all joined the protest demanding change. The Tsar ordered his troops to stop them, but the soldiers hesitated, and some even joined the protesters. This was the February Revolution, and it forced Tsar Nicholas II to give up his throne. The Romanov dynasty, which had ruled Russia for ages, was over. A temporary government took over, promising reforms, but they made one fatal mistake. They kept fighting the war, a decision that made them very unpopular. While the temporary government struggled to stay in control, a new group was gaining power. The Bolsheviks, a radical socialist party led by Vladimir Lenin. Lenin, who had been living in exile, saw his chance. He returned to Russia and rallied the people with his slogan, "Peace, Land, and Bread." It was exactly what the war-weary people wanted to hear. The Bolsheviks promised a revolution, an end to the war, and a fresh start. In October 1917, Lenin and his brilliant strategist Leon Trotsky staged a coup. They took over the government and declared Soviet power. The temporary government, weak and disliked, couldn't stop them. This was the Bolshevik Revolution, a quick and decisive event that changed Russia forever. The Bolsheviks established the Soviet Union and turned Russia into a communist country. The Russian Revolution was a turning point in world history. It brought down a Tsar and led to communist rule. Its impact was felt around the globe, inspiring revolutions and shaping global politics for decades. And as we look at Russia today, the events of 1917 remind us that history may not repeat itself exactly, but it often echoes through time.